Today, we're taking a trip back to 1962, a year when music had real substance. We're giving you the behind-the-scenes stories, some a little controversial. So let's dive into the chart toppers that defined an era. Let's get started with I Can't Stop Lovin' You by Ray Charles. This country soul crossover hit #1 on both the pop and R&B charts. Charles' rendition sparked controversy by blurring racial lines in music. Some critics argued it was too white for R&B audiences, while others claimed it was too black for country fans. Talk about missing the point entirely. Here's a juicy tidbit for you. Ray Charles recorded this song as part of his groundbreaking Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music album. The entire album was recorded in just 12 days, with Charles often nailing songs in a single take. Try telling that to today's artists who spend months tweaking their tracks to robotic perfection. Next up, we have Stranger on the Shore by Mr. Acker Bilk. This instrumental piece, released in 1961 but topping charts in '62, was the first British recording to hit #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Some scoffed at its mellowness, claiming it wasn't real jazz. But hey, at least it didn't need a dance routine or scandalous music video to climb the charts. Fun fact, Bilk originally wrote this tune for his daughter and titled it Jenny. The BBC later used it as the theme for a TV series called Stranger on the Shore, leading to its name change. Imagine that, a hit song born from a father's love, not a marketing team strategy session. Big Girls Don't Cry by the Four Seasons stormed the charts in 1962, showcasing Frankie Valli's distinctive falsetto. This doo-wop classic raised eyebrows with its somewhat patronizing lyrics towards women. But let's be honest, it's less offensive than some of the garbage masquerading as hip-hop these days. Did you know that Bob Crew, who co-wrote Big Girls Don't Cry, claimed the title was inspired by a line from a classic film? He allegedly heard it while watching the 1955 movie Tennessee's Partner, where Ronald Reagan's character slaps his cheating wife and says, "Big girls don't cry." Who says TV rots your brain? Sometimes it births million-dollar ideas. Hold on to your vinyl, folks, and tell us what memories does Big Girls Don't Cry stir up for you? Did you slow dance to it at prom? Or maybe you remember your parents arguing over its message? Share your stories in the comments. Let's show these youngsters what real music does to the soul. Moving on to Roses Are Red by Bobby Vinton. This saccharine love song topped the charts despite some critics dismissing it as overly simplistic and cliche. But you know what? Sometimes simple works. It certainly beats trying to decipher the mumbled lyrics of today's so-called hit makers. Here's a tidbit that'll make you chuckle. Vinton was initially reluctant to record Roses Are Red, thinking it was too old-fashioned. His recording label had to convince him to give it a shot. Good thing he listened, or we might have missed out on this classic earworm. The Twist by Chubby Checker made history by becoming the only song to hit #1 in 2 separate chart runs, first in 1960, then again in '62. Some conservative types weren't fans of the dance craze it spawned, claiming it was too provocative. If only they could see the twerking epidemic of the 21st century, they'd probably have a coronary. Want to know something wild? The success of the Twist reportedly led to a boom in the sales of men's slacks with elasticized waistbands. Apparently, all that twisting was hard on regular trousers. Now that's what I call impactful music. Peppermint Twist by Joey D and the Starlighters rode the coattails of the twist craze in early 1962. Some music snobs dismissed it as a cheap cash-in, but you can't deny its infectious energy. Unlike today's dance fads that seem to change every week, the Twist had staying power. Here's a spicy detail for you. The Peppermint Lounge, where Joey D and the Starlighters performed regularly, was allegedly owned by members of a crime family. Talk about dangerous liaisons. You didn't see that in sanitized American Bandstand performances, did ya? Duke of Earl by Gene Chandler Released in late 1961, but topping the charts in 62, is a doo-wop classic that some viewed as an anthem of black empowerment. The idea of a black man claiming a noble title was pretty radical for the time. Get this, Chandler came up with the iconic Duke, Duke, Duke of Earl intro while warming up his voice before a performance. Sometimes greatness is born from the simplest moments. No fancy production software required. Hey Baby by Bruce Channel made waves with its distinctive harmonica riff. Some music historians argue it influenced the early sound of the Beatles, though others dismiss this as mere speculation. Either way, it's got more melody in its opening notes than most of today's chart toppers have in their entire runtime. All right, music aficionados, it's time for another pit stop. We've covered some real gems so far. Which of these tunes still gets your toes tapping? Or maybe you got a bone to pick with our takes? Don't be shy, sound off in the comments. Let's show these whippersnappers what passionate music discussion looks like. Now, let's shimmy on over to the Locomotion by Lil Eva. Released in 1962, this dance craze hit was actually written by Carole King and her husband Jerry Goffin. Some folks at the time grumbled that it was too simplistic, but isn't that the point of a good dance tune? At least you can understand the lyrics without needing a decoder ring. Here's a tasty morsel of trivia. Little Eva was actually Carole King's babysitter. King and Goffin wrote the song after watching Eva do a particular dance while she was babysitting. From babysitter to chart topper. Now that's the American dream. Return to Sender by Elvis Presley proved the King still had it even as newer acts were emerging. Some naysayers claimed Elvis was past his prime, but this catchy tune about a rejected love letter showed he could still connect with audiences. Here's a little known fact that'll make you appreciate this song even more. Return to Sender was featured in the movie Girls, 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 and was written in just 20 minutes by Winfield Scott and Otis Blackwell. Quality doesn't always require months of tinkering in a high-tech studio. Johnny Angel by Shelley Fabares
Johnny Angel, how I love him,
was dismissed by some as bubblegum pop. But you know what? Sometimes we need a little sweetness in our lives. It's certainly preferable to the angst-ridden, oversharing lyrics of modern pop songs. Did you know that Shelley Fabares was terrified of singing and had to be coaxed into recording this song? She was primarily an actress, known for her role on The Donna Reed Show. Just goes to show, sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone can lead to greatness. Good Luck Charm by Elvis Presley
Be my little good luck charm, you sweet.
Was another chart topper that proved the King's staying power. Some critics argued it was a step back from his edgier rock and roll roots, but I say it showcased his versatility, unlike some one-trick ponies dominating today's charts. Here's a juicy bit of gossip from the era. This was one of the last songs Elvis ever recorded before his falling out with the songwriting team of Wally Gold and Aaron Schroeder. The dispute was over publishing rights. Seems even the King had to deal with music industry drama. Mashed Potato Time by Dee Dee Sharp was yet another dance craze hit. Some music scholars argue these dance tunes were a distraction from the serious social issues of the time. But hey, sometimes people need a little escapism. At least it got folks moving, unlike today's kids who seem glued to their smartphones. All right, time to take a breather and hear from you. We're halfway through our musical journey of 1962. Which of these songs bring back the fondest memories? Or maybe you've got a hot take on how they compare to today's music. Don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a real discussion going. David Rose's provocative instrumental hit, The Stripper, raised more than a few eyebrows with its sultry brass and teasing percussion. Originally written as filler music for a TV show, this tune unexpectedly topped the charts. much to the chagrin of moral guardians of the time. Some radio stations even refused to announce its risque title on air. But let's be honest, compared to the explicit lyrics and videos flooding today's media, this instrumental tease seems almost quaint. Here's a juicy tidbit that'll make you chuckle. Rose reportedly composed this famous melody in just 1 hour, and the recording was completed in a single take. Talk about lightning in a bottle. It just goes to show that sometimes spontaneity trumps all the overproduction and endless tinkering that goes into today's so-called hits. They sure don't make them like they used to, folks. Breaking Up is Hard to Do by Neil Sedaka is a prime example of the brill-building sound. Some critics argued it was too saccharine, but at least you could understand the lyrics without needing a translator, unlike some of today's mumble rap that passes for popular music. Did you know that Sedaka wrote this song with Howard Greenfield in a mere 20 minutes? They were inspired by Sedaka's high school girlfriend, who had recently dumped him. Talk about turning heartbreak into gold. Soldier Boy by the Shirelles touched on the timeless theme of lovers separated by war. Some accused it of glorifying military service, while others praised its emotional depth. Either way, it's got more substance than most of the vapid love songs cluttering up today's airwaves. Here's a bit of trivia that might surprise you. The Shirelles were one of the first all-girl groups to hit it big in rock and roll. They paved the way for countless female artists, even if they don't always get the credit they deserve. Crying in the Rain by the Everly Brothers showcased the duo's impeccable harmonies.
Crying in the rain.
Some argued it was a departure from their earlier, more country-influenced sound, but isn't evolution part of an artist's journey? Unlike some of today's one-hit wonders who seem content to rehash the same formula ad nauseum. Want to know something cool? This song was co-written by Howard Greenfield and Carole King, who would go on to become one of the most successful songwriters of all time. Talk about a meeting of musical minds. The Wanderer by Dion, while released in 1961, continued to make waves in '62. Its celebration of the footloose bachelor lifestyle raised some eyebrows in more conservative circles, but it's tame compared to some of the lyrics you hear on the radio these days, isn't it? Here's a tidbit that'll make you appreciate Dion's artistry even more. He improvised some of the lyrics during the recording sessions, including the iconic "They Call Me the Wanderer" line. Sometimes magic happens in the moment. Sealed with a Kiss by Brian Hyland was criticized by some as being too sentimental. But in a world that seems increasingly cynical, couldn't we use a little more unabashed romance? At least you didn't need a PhD in metaphysics to decipher its meaning. Did you know that this song's been covered by numerous artists over the years, including Bobby Vinton and Jason Donovan? It just goes to show that a good melody never goes out of style. Love Me Do by the Beatles marked the beginning of a musical revolution.
Love me do.
This was the spark that would ignite Beatlemania and change the face of popular music forever. Here's a fact that might blow your mind. Ringo Starr didn't play drums on the original recording of Love Me Do. It was session drummer Andy White, with Ringo relegated to tambourine. Even legends had to start somewhere. Don't Break the Heart That Loves You by Connie Francis showcased her powerful vocals. Some viewed it as overly dramatic, but at least it had real emotion behind it, unlike some of today's overproduced, auto-tuned tracks that sound like they were made by robots. Want to know something interesting? Connie Francis was originally reluctant to record this song, thinking it wasn't right for her. Good thing she changed her mind, or we might have missed out on this classic. Last but not least, we have Walk On By Leroy Van Dyke. Released in 1961, it continued to chart well into 1962.
Just walk on by.
Some country fans didn't like the more polished Nashville sound. It's certainly preferable to the bro country plaguing the airwaves these days. Here's a fun fact to wrap things up. Walk On By spent 19 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Country chart, a record that stood for nearly 50 years. Now that's what I call staying power. And there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of 1962's chart toppers. These songs weren't just hits. They were the soundtrack to people's lives. They sparked joy, controversy, and everything in between. Sure, music's evolved since then, but has it really gotten better? I'll leave that for you to decide. Before we go, take a moment to appreciate the craftsmanship that went into these tunes. No fancy production tricks, just raw talent and great songwriting. Maybe it's time we brought some of that authenticity back to music. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this nostalgic journey. Until next time, keep those vinyl records spinning.